Good day, everyone. I hope to find you in very great spirits. In today's video, I wanted to share with you all the books that I'm currently reading right now, and hence they are active in my TBR. So, if this is something that interests you, just stick around so I can give you a little bit of feedback as to what I have read so far. And my first pick at the moment is Intercept by TJ Payne. And this is labeled as a horror book, but as of now, it has a little bit of suspense and a little bit of history, but no horror elements. The story is placed in West Virginia in a very secretive facility where the government conducts certain experiments on humans. Now, there are only a certain number of humans in captivity here, and they are called antennas. They are being described as people that have certain ability to communicate. Their senses have been blown out of proportion, so they don't have a sense of touch or light, or they don't talk. Up to this point, it has not fully explained why that's the case or what is the kind of purpose that they use these people, how they communicate, because obviously they are called antennas. So it has not been fully explained. As of now, but everything is revolving about this one woman, which they call Bishop, and she is supposed to be the number one antenna. Her abilities are top notch out of all the people that they are currently trading right there. But the plot thickens when the manager of the facility, his ex-wife, passes away, surprisingly, and is labeled as a suicide. So he has to run and pick up his daughter. But as he meets his daughter, and then he's bringing her home, then her daughter starts experiencing some visions where she see a woman in a hospital gown that looks a certain way, her hair is a certain way, and the description that the daughter is giving to the building manager is this antenna. So how is this going to be interconnected? Is the consciousness of this antenna so elevated at a point that she's coming for vengeance and then she's going to start on a killing spree? I don't know. But as of now, the chapters are very short, but the writing is very concise and well written. So it has kept me engaged. So it's very interesting, and I'm going to continue. Is it going to be a 5 star? I do not know. I go with books with no expectations at all. If they satisfied me, well, good. And if they don't, we'll move on. The next book that I am reading is Tell Me One Thing. And I do not know how to pronounce the author last name, so I'm just going to put it here somewhere. And Tell Me One Thing is set in New York City in a dual timeline. So we get to see the story of a 23-year-old Quinn. She wants to be a photographer, but as of now, she's kind of like an indie street photographer. She lives in New York City in the 1980s, and she has a boyfriend that she describes as her soulmate. His name is Billy. They travel to Pennsylvania because Billy has bad habits. He doesn't need money, but he doesn't want to rely on his family, so he's a drug dealer. And as they go to this small town in Pennsylvania, they come across a 9-year old named Lulu. Lulu is a very destitute girl. She doesn't know her father. Her mother is a prostitute. Lulu doesn't like school, but she's very loyal. She has friends that she wants to protect. But she follows her mother's path, and she ends up doing a lot of bad things that she's not supposed to do. When Queen meets Lulu, she gets bewitched by a scene that she gets to see as Lulu gets picked up by a trucker, and you know the way that the hands are placed and Lulu is holding a cigarette, it makes the picture very enticing and also not very normal. So the book goes back and forth between both timelines and both characters. We get to see Lulu's life and we get to see Queen's life, and both their struggles. You know, Queen is also poor. She wants to make it. She loses friends, and her best friend and lover has a drug addiction. Besides the drug dealing as well, she loses friend in the gay community because in the 80s the AIDS epidemic was going rampant. And Lulu, on the other hand, goes through many stages in her life. She goes through abandonment and foster care, juvenile detention. So it's a very eye opening, very realistic, um, very well told story. Once you start, you just cannot put the book down. If, however, you are kind of sensitive towards themes of, drug use, mental health, abandonment, child abuse, prostitution, sexual workers, and all that kind of stuff, then this book might not be for you. But the depiction and the ambience that portrays the characters and the hopelessness that they experience at times, it's so moving and so touching that is very lovely. In the classical end, I am also reading Ruth by Elizabeth Gaskell, and this is set in a Victorian England in the countryside. Ruth is a 15-year-old that is very beautiful but is very naive and ignorant. She is orphaned. Her parents died, so her legal guardian just dumped her into an apprenticeship so she can learn from a seamstress that is not the nicest person in the world, but she finds herself with not a lot of choices. In her goes around, she meets Mr. Bellingham, which is a very spoiled and kind of treacherous 23-year-old um, man that gets infatuated by her. And, he approaches her in a very, dubious way. Like, Ruth, just tell me your problems as a brother. You know you can confide in me. And Ruth just fall for it. So how this is gonna end, we don't know. But Elizabeth Gaskell's pen was very delightful and very poignant at the time. So if you have not read any of her stories, do so because she is just fabulous. Also another book that I'm reading, but I just started. I am like 25 pages in, is Midnight Bargain by Seal Polk, I believe is the name of the author. And this is also kind of in a Victorian way, but is a magical realism. The town and the world is a work of fiction and it involves magic. But the way that it relates to females is that even though females can have magical auras, if they marry, they lose it. So, our main heroine, her name is Beatrice, and she is of age. She's in her early 20s to meet men and get married, and also is in the best interest of her father to get her married because he has a lot of debt and he needs the money. But Beatrice has a lot of plans for herself because she knows that her magic, with the little that she has been able to taught herself, to teach herself, is very strong. So she is on the quest to find this book so she can summon a very strong spirit, and then she can make her magic stronger, so she doesn't have to rely on any man and doesn't have to marry it. But obviously, more characters are coming in. I am up to the point where she meets siblings, and they are into this bookstore, and they are in the middle of, okay, I want this book, but I can pay for it, but I want this book and I have more talent. So I do not know which way it's going to go. It's very well told. The descriptions are very lively and delightful. Again, a little YA, but not childish, more on the adult side with very nice themes of wanting to make a path, on your own, trying to survive, not to rely on any male character or male power. Whether Beatrice is going to have a love interest with one of the siblings, I do not know yet, but I had kind of sparks. That's what I was able to perceive. So let's see what happens. And lastly, I am rereading The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov or Misha Bulgakov. I am reading the Spanish version, and I am right now in chapter 16. Master and Margarita is a very difficult read in the sense that it's a novel within a novel. It has various themes of um, criticism towards the corruption of the time, the dictatorship that happens between the 20s and 40s. Also, it brings forward the shallowness of people and all the social climbing that people are willing to do just for appearances. And also the past corruption of the time and the hypocrisy of the literary world of the time. Here we find the devil that just decides to show up in Moscow and starts, giving punishment and lectures to the literary community. On the other hand, we also have the master, which is a very frustrated author that, due to the rejection of so many publishing agents that bluntly just refused to publish his novel about the last days of Jesus and his interactions with, the Roman people at the time, and also the role that the devil had at that time. He ends up in a health facility and he's being labeled as a little cuckoo. His love interest is Margarita, which is his mistress, because she is married to another man, but obviously her heart belongs to the master. So, as the master and Margarita comes in contact with the devil and his gang of helpers, which is a very fat, treacherous cat that likes to get drunk and walk in 2 feet, and fallen angel and a vampire, if I remember correctly. A whole new 9 yards starts to developing, and more characters and more people coming to judgment and punishment, and up to the end, our Margarita gets, the the permission, she gets granted 2 wishes by the devil. Also, something important to point out is that the master and Margarita, it's so significant because it has a lot of literary references. Here you can clearly see references to other works like Nikolai Gogol and Pushkin, Dostoevsky, and even I would say Paradise Lost. So if you truly enjoy classic literature and you have not approached The Master and Margarita, I highly recommend it because it's joyful. It might not You might not get it in the first try, but definitely requires a reread to you to fully immersed into the world. And also, if you have the book or if you're interested to get the book, get one that has annotations, that has all the literary references and commentary. So obviously getting a Penguin Classic or an Oxford Classic is a must, as I discussed in my previous video about what classic edition you should get. I'm going to leave you a small reference so you can check that out if you're interested or inclined to do so. And as of now, this is all the books that I'm reading at the moment. I hope you enjoy and that my little feedback and information was useful to you. I hope you are enjoying yourself and are having a very great day. And until our next video, I hope you take good care of yourself. So until our next time, bye bye.